Hi, this is David Easterbrook here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be working on a North American bittersweet. It's actually a vine, and we'll be transforming it from a nursery tree into a bonsai. I hope you enjoyed last week's video on the Canadian hemlock. This week is a pretty busy week for me. Christmas is coming. This week we drove 4 hours to go and buy a Christmas tree. It's enormous. It's about 13 feet tall. If you want to see it, I'll post some photos of it in the coming week on my Instagram account. Just to tell you guys that we're now approaching 10,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel, and I would really like you, if we can get up there, generate more interest, it would really help me. I could get better quality material and do more videos for you guys. So please refer your friends to me, your family, everyone else, so that we can up the number of subscribers. So before we start this transformation, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. I'll try to reply to all your comments in the next few days. Now let's get this show started. I'm working on a North American bittersweet. It's actually a vine. It can grow up to about 100 feet tall. And what it does, it actually grows around trees, tree trunks, and can literally, the trunk can get so thick that it can cut off the sap flow to the tree and kill the tree. They do form big trunks. This is actually quite poisonous if you eat the berries. Even the roots are sometimes poisonous. It's an interesting tree to work with as a bonsai because it's considered a fall bonsai. You can see these beautiful berries. It starts by forming, the females start by forming orange berries, and when they open up, when the fruits open up, they have a red center. They're eaten by birds, they're spread by birds. They make wonderful Christmas wreaths. Now we're going to remove the branches. So there's a few places. I got this tree from a nursery, and there's a few bad scars that I don't like. So we're going to get rid of them. We're going to reduce them. Now there's this big branch here is actually like a sucker that was taking over the main tree. I want to remove it. It's growing too straight, too vertically, and it's not a very attractive branch. Okay, so now we're going to remove some other scar tissues so that when we're wiring, they won't be in the way. Certain amount of dieback on this tree. Now the Japanese have Oriental bittersweet. This is actually our native bittersweet, but it's gradually being displaced by the Oriental bittersweet. It was introduced into North America, and the Japanese variety seems to be stronger and is taking it over. So So now I've removed the unnecessary branches. Now let's look at this tree. I'm going to cut some of the pot away so that we can get a good look at the root system. I don't want to repot it at this time of year, so we're just going to lower the pot to the root level so that you can see it better while I'm working. There we go. Now you can see why I bought this tree. It's got some good rooting on this level. We're missing a bit here But don't forget, it's a vine. We can't expect too much. The angle it comes out of the ground, and there's a slight movement over here, is very interesting. This movement here, this little jog in the trunk, is quite nice. Unfortunately, starting from here on up, it's pretty straight. So we want to get rid of that straightness by wiring it and bending it. Because it's a vine, it's quite flexible, contrary to most deciduous material. And so we're going to be wiring. We have to start our wire in the ground to be able to anchor it, because we don't have any other thick enough branch to anchor on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try to bend this back this way a bit, and then bend this down here, all right? So that we can give a nice movement in here to our tree. When you're wiring, you have to know how much wire. So measure, I'm going up to here. So you're measuring about that height and adding a third, and then a bit more to put the wire in the ground to anchor it between the roots. So this is the thickness of wire, the length of wire we need. I'm going to cut it at an angle so it'll be easier to get in the ground. Now, this will be the front of our tree because we have some nice roots there. So we want to stick our wire in the back. Okay, and generally to get it all the way down, I'll take a pair of pliers, and I've already sharpened the tip when I cut it. Okay, so now it's well anchored right in there. Okay, now I have to decide, yes, I'm bringing it down that way. So we're going to start our wire this way to bring the trunk downwards. And now every turn should be about a 60-degree angle, and you're holding the wire against the trunk of your tree. You don't want any spaces in there. And everywhere where you're going to be trying to bend here, you want to have the wire where you're going to bend so it won't break. Here, you always want to put a branch at the exterior, the outside of the bend, okay? Now, so I want to have the wire going right there. Where I'm going to be bending it. And then when we get up to this section, we're going to be bending quite a bit. So I need some wire up here also. And finally, we're getting towards, this will actually be our top. This branch has to be brought downwards. I think this wire is a bit too thick for up here, so we're going to cut it there. And as you can see, we just don't have that much left. We don't want to waste wire here. Okay, so we've got that done. Now, before I bend the trunk, I'm going to be wiring the other branches. Now, I want a wire that's about 1/2. We're using aluminum wire, which is a weak wire. So I want a wire that's about 1/2 the thickness of this branch. This is a tad thin. Always better to have slightly thicker than thinner with aluminum wire, because it's a very weak wire. Okay, so now we want to bring this branch down and this way. So we have to start actually with the wire underneath this branch, and I'm giving myself enough to get to the end there. Okay, and then the wire will go around and we will go up to the next branch. Okay, so once we've determined the thickness of our wire, and not the thickness, the length of our wire, now we're going to start anchoring at one end. And again, we'll go right to the end of this branch with the wire. Got a couple of little dead branches in there that will, little snags that we'll remove so that we'll be able to wire unhindered. Here we go. Try to make sure your wire is always resting against the branch. It's very important, because if there's a space and you go to bend in that place, that's when the branch will break on you. So now this branch is very long and straight, and it's quite boring when it's long and straight. So we're going to have to really give it a lot of bends to shorten it, to compact the length, this very long, straight, horizontal section. Before we do that, of course, we're going to wire this upper branch. We have to finish it. Okay, so now we are going to, as this is the front of the tree, and this first branch has to come towards the front. So when you bend a branch, you can only bend it when you have a piece of wire, a spiral of wire behind to hold the bend in place. And you guide that bend by putting your two index fingers on the outside. Now we're going to give it some more quite radical bends. Because we're trying to shorten it. All right, so we're shortening this. We've shortened this one. Now for the next one up above. This one will be a back branch. We're actually going to be bringing it toward the back and twisting it a little bit so that we can bring this to the side. Because we do have, this is going to be the top here. So we need a back branch to stop the eye from going right through. Now, this will be our new top. So we're going to be wiring this to this point here. We need a slightly thinner wire. All right. Okay, so now we're going to be wiring right to the end here. Before I have to anchor this branch here. This branch is going to be our new top, guys, girls. sec here. This branch that I'm using for the top is actually trying to split away from the trunk here. So I have to be very careful. It's still hanging on by half, which is enough to keep it from dying, but it is very concerning. I think I'm going to cut off this wire and start it from down below. It's just too dangerous. Oh, there we go. Guys, when I was wiring, the weight of the wire actually pulled the branch we were going to use to bring down here. It actually pulled away from the trunk. It was a very weak connection in here, and it came off completely. So what we're going to do is, you always have to have you know, a backup plan here. So we are going to bend it, and this will still become the trunk. So that's what we're going to do. It'll take maybe a year or two more, but it'll become a new trunk without any problems. So I'm just going to cut away this, use a slightly thinner wire so the same thing won't happen, and we'll go with our backup plan here. Okay, so now we'll get a much thinner wire, maybe about a size 2. Now I have to anchor this wire, so I will anchor it right about here. And here we go, up to the top. Okay. So now we do have to bend this trunk. So we want to bend it slightly forward also. We don't want a perfect semicircle. That's boring. But we do want to bring it down slightly lower. Here we go. And now let's recreate a new trunk here. A new apex, I should say. So this here will be our new apex, and we will bring this part of the apex down to fill in here. And now we will wire these finer branches over here. Now I can't wire these two branches together, these two right here, because I can't do a full turn between the two. They would seesaw. So I'm going to come back a little bit and wire this one here. And then we'll wire this other one we'll bring the wire toward the front so we can wire the little branch next to it. Here we go. Okay. Okay, now we'll wire these branches down. This end branch, the extremity is already dead, it's dried out, so I just removed it. They're very fast growers, these Celastrus or Bittersweet, and one shouldn't worry too much about losing the top. It'll grow back in no time at all. Probably better because now we're going to be having more taper. As you can see, it's very thick here, gets thinner here, gets thinner here, and right up here, it's very thin. So that'll be interesting. These plants really require quite a bit of humidity. Celastrus, humidity, a good rich soil, lots of sun in order for them to grow really well. Okay, now we're going to be working with this part of our tree. Okay, here we go. I'm cutting away because as I'm going along, I'm seeing that some of the tips have dried out, are actually dead. So it's best removing anything that's dead. Okay, we're trying to arrange our branches so that we have branches both in the back and in the front. Okay, we're getting toward the branch tip. It's a bit long, but it's right now this branch is actually most of the foliage is at the tip. So if I cut off everything, we're not going to have any branch to draw the sap to the end, we're not going to have enough strength in the tree. So I will leave it, but I will remove the fruits, that's okay. I mean, generally you shouldn't leave the fruits on fruiting bonsai too long because it exhausts the branch. And sometimes if you leave too many fruits, it can kill the whole tree. So you don't want that. So usually after they've been on a few weeks or sometimes a month, depending on what the size of fruits. The larger the fruits, the sooner you have to remove them. These fruits are very, very tiny, so you don't have to worry too much about them. Now, fruiting trees are less formal than, say, a conifer, so you don't have to have all the branches formally aligned. You just want some up and down movement on many of them. Now we'll be using some finer number 1mm wire for the branch tips. Here we go. And we're wiring the finest branches now. And we have a couple of little ones left to do right here, and that will be it almost for the wiring. One little branch up here that's too high, so we have to bring it down, and then we'll be finished with the wiring of this branch. Okay. There we are. Okay. So this branch is done. Just have a little one here to do with some number 1 wire and some 1mm wire, and we'll just give some curves to these branches up here, and that'll be all for this tree. Yes, I find fruiting bonsai very interesting, everyone. They're they denote fall when the fruits are all colored. They're covered with berries. It's really quite interesting. They're a wonderful bonsai to add to your collection, the fall bonsai. So don't forget to add one or two to your collection. And unfortunately, as I said, the branch we were going to use as the apex broke off. So we've got our new apex, the new top to our tree is right there. It'll grow back in a short while. Now I will put some cut paste on the large wounds that I created so that, you know, they won't dry out. There won't be any drying back on it. And let me just get my cut paste over here. I think I would prefer to use some liquid cut paste. You don't need to use that much. It's just to stop the air from getting in there and drying it out. Right now it's an ugly color of orange, but that color will disappear. It becomes quite transparent after a while. The worst is this one up here. Gotta get this covered. It's a very fibrous wood. It doesn't cut easily. Okay, so here we are, folks. This is, I just want to give it a little bit more movement here. Final result, everyone. It's got good movement here. We've been able to bend this a little bit more to try to improve the shape here. This has been bent down quite a bit so that we can continue. We've reversed the movement of the bottom part of the trunk, and we've created good taper from large to slightly less thicker, and finally the least thick of all toward the top. So it'll be a good quality bonsai in the future. It'll be put into a very nice little, probably a green colored pot, in either a square or round one. It'll be into a semi-cascade pot, probably about an olive green color. I think it would go very well with this tree when it's repotted in the spring. I'll just take this off and turn it around so you can see it from every angle. Okay, I hope, as you can see, we had a slight disaster on our hands. The branch I was going to use as the new top and secondary branch did break, so that we had to use a smaller branch. But there's always a way to recover from these accidents. Now I'll show you the tree from all sides. I'll turn it around. Okay, everyone, that's all for today. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Like, what would you have done if the branch had broken off? Yeah, tell me. I'd like to know. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye. Oh, there we go. Okay, do you want to start over with another tree?